I also have elastic that was used for beading for necklaces, stretch necklaces. Is that something that can be used?
I think if you got desperate, that really thin corded braid could be used if you needed it maybe for yourself for home.
Right.
But it would be uncomfortable. It would tend to want to dig in after a while. The 1/4 inch elastic seems to be what everybody is preferring. Some people are repurposing 1 inch elastic and cutting it lengthways. It has a tendency to want to ravel on either side, but once it gets done raveling, it'll hold for a while. It's not ideal. But the corded braid, you know, if you want to take the time to crochet a chain of it so that it's got a little bit more width to it.
That's not good. That's an idea.
Yeah, because quite a bit comes on a spool, so you could get that done probably pretty easily. And then the other issue with the really thin thread style elastic is stitching it down. It wants to pull out of everything, so you kind of want to have several layers in order to, because its purpose isn't to be pulled on horizontally. It's going to want to stay.
If you have the channels in the side like this, you might be able to just loop it through, you know.
Yep.
Or I've heard of people using the hair tie elastics and headband elastics and cutting open a bungee cord is full of elastic. There's a lot of different ways to do elastic. And again, I still kind of prefer the fabric ties myself.
Oh, so that was something that came up in the questions, was bias tape. So you can buy bias tape, or you might have some in your stash, or you can use a bias tape maker. I really loathe this. I know other people are good at this. I am not good at this. I prefer this. So bias tape is great for ties, and this is always an option. Excuse me.
Yeah, you have. I sewed mine together. It was a lot more work because you basically
a lot more work. Yeah.
Like 4 things to sew, but it's definitely better than nothing.
Yeah, it's definitely. But I was actually thinking before I did bias tape again, I might switch to shoelaces if I had to. The other issue that the bias tape has is, depending on what pattern you're using, you have to use almost 2 yards of bias tape per mask. So there's only, on average, this little older package that I've got is 3 yards. I have a couple of other packages that are 4 yards. So this really does not go very far. So if you're looking for donating en masse quantity, this is not going to be your best bet, in my opinion. They're more comfortable, though.
What is bias tape? I don't know what it is.
Bias tape is a binding. So what it is if you're doing something decorative, let me find you a piece.
It's just a little piece of fabric that's been folded over and then in again on itself, so that all the raw edges are.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
all the raw edges are turned in, so it's just a nice. So when I open up this piece of bias tape here, it's, I don't know, what's that, maybe 3/4 of an inch wide, and then you use this is from a factory, but you can use a bias tape maker. These come in different sizes. So this one takes 1 1/4 inch piece of fabric.
Oh, wow.
And folds it in half. Yeah, it is. But they're fussy because if you're doing it properly, you're cutting your fabric on the bias, which means you're cutting it on the diagonal. If you're doing this for volume, cutting it on the bias means you're going to have a lot of waste, and you're really going through a lot of fabric. So if you have to do it, great. If you have a ton of it kicking around in your stash, use it. But this was not my most favorite technique.